Okay, we're back, and I promised I would talk about anxiety. I hope this is valuable to you. It's been very valuable to me, and I think other people have found it equally valuable to understand first that anxiety is nothing more than your body getting you ready to meet an emergency, whether that's a first date, a ceremony, an athletic competition, a recital, or a speech, or a lecture, whatever it is. When you experience anxiety, the first thing to begin to understand is my body is getting me ready to fight or getting me ready to run away. And if you choose to stay and fight, give the speech, then you're ready in a way that you're not normally ready for to meet challenges. So in order to cope with anxiety, very often the first thing we do is we label it, is we identify what it really is. You may call it worry or fear or nervous attack, panic, freaking out. All of that is fight or flight. Anxiety, we must have anxiety. We must experience fight or flight when we're facing challenges, or we're not going to be at our best. We were designed to be at our best in challenge. So we can kind of break anxiety into two different types: helpful anxiety or unhelpful anxiety. Unhelpful anxiety is the anxiety that you might experience taking a test that scrambles your thoughts, that makes it impossible for you to focus and concentrate. That's too much anxiety. But the helpful anxiety that keeps you awake while you're taking the test, that helps you focus because of that boost of blood in your brain and helps you come up with answers more quickly, that's adaptive, that's helpful anxiety. When I experience unhelpful anxiety, there are some things that I need to do and can do to decrease that sensation overall, and kind of, I'll say trick or manipulate the brain into decreasing its level of arousal towards a more helpful level of anxiety. So I've already mentioned this, but when you take a ugly, scary frame off of a picture and put on a pleasing, beautiful frame, that affects the picture. And so reframing an idea means, rather than when you're experiencing anxiety, getting ready to give a speech, and somebody says, "How are you doing?" and you say, "I'm terrified, I'm freaking out." Well, that tells your brain that there's something to freak out about. And your brain will respond by increasing its danger response. If, on the other hand, you say, "I'm ready, let's do it, let's go," you're telling your brain at a powerful level, I'm not freaking out, I understand that I'm ready, and your brain will comply by letting, by maybe relaxing the anxiety dosage a little bit, but at least you know that anxiety is there for a reason, that it's not there to hinder you, that it's there to help you. Very often, the troubling aspect of anxiety is my brain sometimes detects threats that I don't detect in my thoughts, in unresolved issues, and this is where panic attacks come from very often. Panic is appropriate when you're about to have an accident, a car accident. It's not appropriate when you're minding your own business, walking into Walmart, and all of a sudden your brain decides at a primitive level, "Oh my gosh, these people are going to judge me," and throws you into fight or flight. So one helpful idea would be try to examine or identify the source of the threat. If you begin to experience crippling or powerful anxiety in an area where you don't see the actual threat, ask yourself, what am I afraid of? What's gone on recently in my life within the last few minutes, hours, or days that my brain may be responding to protect me, to get me ready to deal with this challenge? Once you identify the source of the threat, then you can kind of move into the next area, which would be the reality check. The reality check means, first and foremost, asking yourself, is that really a threat? Is that really going to happen? So-and-so says that the economy is collapsing and we're going to lose our jobs. Okay, where's the evidence for that? In reality, is there evidence for that? at a primitive level, you may have experienced a job loss and difficulty finding another job. So maybe the fear is not just losing your job, but the primitive fear is, I'll never be able to work again. Well, realistically, that's not true. There are plenty of jobs out there. There are plenty of job openings in Texas right now, in this moment, at a difficult time. It's June 4th, 2020, for people listening to this in the future. This is when the COVID stuff's going on and the rioting is going on. It's a time of great anxiety. The brain is detecting threats all over the place. Realistically, how likely is it that we're going to find ourselves in the middle of a riotous group of people burning things down and beating people up? Where we live, Big Spring, Texas, I'm prayerful that that's not, in reality, something that's going to happen here. It could, but if it did, we would be able to be ready for it. Part of the reality check means identifying what you can control. What can you control about being fired from your job? If there is something, take action. Go talk to the boss. Do better at work. Be on time. Make yourself indispensable. Take on extra duties. There are some things you can do. Another aspect of the reality check is courage is not the absence of fear. Courage is moving forward in the face of fear. So when you're afraid, that's the best time to demonstrate your courage to yourself and to others. Go forward, give the speech, and handle the challenge, even though you're frightened. That's true courage. Also within the reality check is there are things you can't control. And I would say that we all need to accept the things that we can't change. This is something I have no power over. There's nothing to fight tangibly. There's nothing to really, nowhere to run, nothing to run away from. And so the sooner I can accept that reality, let it go, surrender that, then I can move back and start dealing with what I can control, what I can take action on. Very important to challenge negative thoughts in an anxiety-provoking event, because anxiety feeds on itself. It tends to get worse and worse before it gets better and better, and you've probably experienced laying awake at night with insomnia because you're so nervous about something, thinking of all the horrible things that are going to happen. They're gonna laugh at me and call me names and throw tomatoes at me, and I'll fail the class, and I'll be marked as a person who can't speak in public, and no one will ever hire me, and on and on and on. Those are useless negative thoughts. What can you control? Take action right then. Go over the speech again a couple of times. Accept what you can't control. You can't control the audience. You can't control the, whatever name we want to call those people who are horrible listeners. Or surrender that. Challenge those negative thoughts. I like this idea too. The feelings are not facts. So many people say trust your feelings, and I tend to cringe when I hear that. Don't trust your feelings. Your feelings lie to you. Your feelings are based on very primitive pathways in your brain that are responding to long lost crises and long lost realities or things that have happened to you. Feelings do not necessarily very often live in the moment. They are combinations of multiple feelings, multiple losses. The guy who yells at the police officer who pulled him over probably has a lot of other people he could be yelling at, but it just so happens that this was the straw that broke the camel's back for him. So I tend to say don't trust your feelings. It's important to acknowledge them and important to accept them, but there's a reality behind that feeling. We're really good at taking fear and turning it into anger, and that's a mistake, especially in an argument. Thought stopping. This is for people who suffer from very crippling anxiety. For example, I'm going to fail this test. One way to deal with that is to take mental control of that emotion, and the mental control means when you have racing thoughts of all the failure that's going to come down on you, all the horrible things are going to happen if this happens. Some people imagine a huge stop sign rushing up to meet them, filling their field of view, and at the same time as it gets to its closest point, they yell stop as loud as they can. If you're alone, do it out loud. If you're around somebody, you can internally yell stop. as loud as you can. And if it doesn't work the first time, you do it again, and you do it again. You don't let those negative thoughts take control again. You stop those thoughts, and you replace those negative, frightening thoughts with whatever it is that you can focus on. At least I passed the first test. This experience, even if I fail miserably in front of this group of people, most of them will sympathize and are pretty happy that they're not in my place. Many of them have failed their own speaking engagements. This is an opportunity to practice and get better at it in the future. That's just an example of replacing those negative thoughts with whatever is good. One that's very effective for people who have panic disorder, who describe themselves as chronic worriers, is to schedule worry appointments. Hang with me. Scheduling a worry appointment means I'm not going to stop worrying altogether. I'm going to begin to control when I worry to the best of my ability. And it's important to be consistent with this. So a worry appointment might sound something like this. You make this agreement with yourself. Every day at 4:30, I'm going to sit down with a separate spiral notebook that's only for worry. And I'm going to not just sit and think, I'm going to write down every possible nightmare scenario that I can think of to worry about during at all. And I'm going to set my timer for 15 minutes. When that 15-minute timer goes off, I guarantee myself that I will close the worry book, set it aside, and go on with my day. If I have a worrying thought that tries to intrude when the worry book is not out, I will perhaps make a quick note of it because I'm going to use it tomorrow during my worry schedule, my worry appointment, but I'm not going to let it occupy my day. Very often this has a pretty profound psychological effect. You've given yourself permission to worry. You're writing them down, and when you write things down, the reality check is much easier to see. And you're also able to postpone the daily worries to that worry appointment. It can be very effective to some people. Over here you see the grounding tool. Look around, five things you can see, 4 things you can touch, 3 things you can hear, 2 things you can smell, and 1 thing you can taste. Effective in the moment of panic, when it's a very abstract concept of panicking, and so when you bring yourself back down to the ground with that grounding tool, that can be very effective as well. The last thing I'll share with you before we close this one off is my very favorite fear quote. It comes from a movie called After Earth with Will Smith and his son. I forgot his son's name, but good actor in his own right. And just a really, really good movie about moving forward in the face of fear. And I think you'd love it, or I hope you would enjoy it. It's kind of science fiction based. And during the time of the movie, Will Smith's character is talking to his son, who's far away from him, and his son is paralyzed with terror. And this is what the father says. He says, "Fear is not real. The only place that fear can exist is in our thoughts of the future. It is a product of our imagination, causing us to fear things that do not at present and may not ever exist. That is near insanity. Do not misunderstand me. Danger is very real, but fear is a choice." We're all telling ourselves a story, and that day mine changed. Read through that a few times and see what it means for you. It was very powerful. I keep that in mind very frequently during my days, especially right now. And I will talk to you next time.